Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. Y'all, I am so excited to make this video. This video idea has been brewing in my brain for at least a year. We are talking about books that give me the same feeling that I get when I watch the show Gilmore Girls. Now let me tell you, I am a Gilmore Girls fan, like mega fan. I've been watching the show since I was a teenager and I'm almost 35 now, so it's been a part of my life for a long time. It is truly my #1 comfort show. I feel like I can watch Gilmore Girls when I'm sad and it makes me feel better. I can watch it when I'm happy and it makes me happier. It's just my comfort show. Like nothing is better than sitting down and escaping to Stars Hollow for me. And I feel like ever since watching it for the first time, I have just been on the hunt for the feeling, the cozy, comforting feeling that I get when I watch Gilmore Girls. So over the past year, I have been collecting a list of books that have given me the same or similar feelings that I get when I watch Gilmore Girls, and we're gonna talk about them. So I have this broken up into 3 categories: books that I've read already and that I'm like, yes, this makes me feel the same or same-ish that I do when I'm watching Gilmore Girls; books that I haven't read yet but that I've bought because I've heard people say that they give Gilmore Girls vibes; and a list of honorable mentions, so books that have to do with Gilmore Girls but they're not like novels, if that makes sense. So we're gonna start with the books that I've already read and we're gonna kind of work our way through the list. And I'm gonna tell you guys right now, I live in Florida. It is currently 85 degrees, okay? I'm wearing a cardigan for the vibes, but I'm already sweating, so I am probably gonna be losing this cardigan halfway through the video. But I couldn't make a video about Gilmore Girls without wearing a cozy cardigan, okay? Like it just didn't feel right. So let's go ahead and jump into my recommendations for books that give me the same feeling that I get when I watch Gilmore Girls. We're gonna start with 2 books that are part of a series, and the first one is called When in Rome, and the second one is called Practice Makes Perfect, and they are by Sarah Adams. When I read these books, I could not stop thinking about the townspeople of Stars Hollow, because the people who live in this small town that these books take place in, listen, they are just so quirky, like the townspeople of Stars Hollow, okay? So they take place in a small town in Kentucky. It's called Rome. That's why this one is called When in Rome. So to give you just a quick summary of what these are about, I'm pretty sure they're interconnected standalones, so you technically could read them without the other, but I highly recommend starting with this one and then reading this one, and then the third one is coming out next year. I am so excited. So When in Rome is about Amelia Rose. She is a super famous singer and her car ends up breaking down in Rome, Kentucky. She's burnt out, just wanting to get away, and so she like gets in her car and she's like going somewhere just to like take a little vacation, take a mental break, and her car winds up breaking down in Noah's front yard. And now Noah is a baker and he lives in this small town of Rome, Kentucky, and let me just tell you, if you love Gilmore Girls, you are gonna eat this up. You are going to eat this up. So that is my first recommendation. For this one, we are still hanging out in Rome, Kentucky, and our female main character owns a flower shop, and she's like the good girl of the town, and so she doesn't have a lot of experience dating. So that's where our male main character, Will, comes into play. He is actually Amelia's bodyguard, okay? So we have a fake dating situation here. Will is trying to help Annie just get some dating experience. If I had to pick, I would say I enjoyed When in Rome a little bit more, not much, but a little bit, but they are both just such sweet, pure, wholesome reads, and if you like Stars Hollow, you are gonna love Rome, Kentucky. Okay, my next recommendation, if you love Gilmore Girls, is Picking Daisies on Sundays by, I'm gonna try my best here, Liana Cincotti? Question mark? I don't know, y'all. Me with names, we don't really mix that well. But this book, can we first of all just take a moment for the cover? Stunning, so cute. I absolutely love it. So I read this book earlier this year and I was just getting the giddy feelings that I got when I watched Gilmore Girls. I will say the characters in this one, the setting in this one, they don't really remind me of Gilmore Girls, but just the feelings that I was getting, this just made me like super giddy, super giggly, and it just made me as happy as Gilmore Girls makes me, so that's why I'm including it. Our female main character, her her name is Danny, and our male main character, his name is Levi, and they are childhood best friends. Danny professes her feelings for Levi. He does not return the feelings, so they go their separate ways, and 4 years later they run, this is all in the back by the way, none of this is a spoiler, and 4 years go by and they run into each other at a bar, and Levi is like, hey, how's it going? Will you be my fake date to my sister's wedding? I also really enjoyed this because we also get to follow Danny. She is in grad school for fashion design, I think, something along those lines, and Levi is actually a professor, so we get to see their life at school as well, and I really love reading like school settings. I mean, we can kind of like make it work, right? Like when Rory goes to Yale, we can kind of tie it in with like they're at school. So there you go. There's your Gilmore Girls piece. But this book, like I said, it just made me feel happy and giddy like Gilmore Girls. So I had to include it. Plus, I mean, the cover, come on. Okay, next up is Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez. Now, this one people might be like, wait, what? That reminds you of Gilmore Girls? Let me explain, okay? I'm gonna tell you what the book is about, and then I'll tell you why I included it in this list. So this book is about a doctor named Alexis Montgomery, and she finds herself spending a lot of time in this small town with a carpenter named Daniel. So he's this kind of small town country guy, and she's this high class doctor from the city. So they are total opposites, and they are drawn to each other. And so Alexis is finding herself wanting to spend more time in this small town. I don't want to spoil anything, but she's kind of going back and forth with whether or not she should, because her family expects her to work at the hospital in the city that, I don't know if they own it or they've all just worked there. Like she comes from a line of doctors, and they have very, very high expectations on her to uphold kind of the family name in the doctor world. And so she's just kind of struggling with whether she should do what she wants to do or she should do what her family is expecting her to do. And that reminds me so much of Lorelai's story, okay? If you've seen Gilmore Girls, you know that Lorelai did not walk the path that her parents wanted her to walk, and that reminded me so much of what Alexis was going through in this story. And plus it takes place in a small town, Stars Hollow, hello, the ultimate small town. And the townspeople in this one also reminded me so much of the townspeople in Stars Hollow, and you can't beat that, you know? Plus I have to tell you, Abby Jimenez is one of my top 3 authors. She is incredible. She writes romance, but with depth, and that is the kind of romance reader I am. Abby Jimenez is an auto-buy author for me. I pre-ordered her book that is coming out in 2025. Like, she is one of my go-tos. So 10 out of 10 recommend this book, and I do think that if you like Gilmore Girls, you will eat this one up. Okay, next up is As Seen on TV by Meredith Shore. I don't know how to pronounce it, y'all. But let me just say, let me start off. There is a blurb at the top by Abby Jimenez. So that is the first thing that drew me to this book. Second thing that drew me to this book, when I looked it up on Goodreads or Google or wherever I looked it up, so many people were saying that this reminded them of Gilmore Girls. And I will tell you right now, there are actual Gilmore Girls references in this book. So they talk about the show in the book, not a lot, but if you're a Gilmore Girls fan and you see like a Gilmore Girls reference anywhere, you can relate to getting very excited. So I got very excited when those references were made in this book. Oh, and I just looked, and the town is called Pleasant Hollow. Like, hello. So in this one, we follow our main character, Adina, and she is an emerging journalist, but she is so tired of living in New York City because she's tired of dating there. She's like, okay, if watching rom-coms has taught me anything, it has taught me that if I want to find love, I need to go to a small town. So Girly goes to a small town in hopes of finding her man. But when she ends up going to Pleasant Hollow, it's like not what she expected. She's like, okay, where's like the cute, charming bakery? Where's the fall festivals? Like, it's just not panning out how she thought it was going to pan out. The reason that she ended up in this specific town is because she is trying to, like I said, she's an emerging journalist, so she thinks that she has found a story. There is a big real estate guy who has targeted this small town, and he is wanting to develop it, and so she is going there to kind of capture this story of this guy trying to develop this small town. She ends up meeting Finn, a guy who lives in this small town, and I will just leave it at that so I don't spoil anything. But this was a very cute, easy read. It definitely, I think I ended up giving it like a 3 or a 3 0.25 or something like that. Definitely not one of my favorite reads. These books that I've talked about so far have all been like 4+ stars for me. I really, really loved them. This one I liked. It was okay. I just really loved the Gilmore Girls references. And like I said, a lot of people on Goodreads and Google compare it to Gilmore Girls. So I knew that I had to read it, and that's why I'm including it on this list. Okay, next up is a book that I see compared to Gilmore Girls all the time. It's literally the reason why I bought it one day, and it is called The City Baker's Guide to Country Living by Louise Miller. I can never remember the name of this book. Like, I always have to read it off the book because for some reason it just does not stick in my brain. But it is about our main character, Olivia, and she is a baker, like a very talented baker. She works in, I think, like this fancy hotel in the city, but she's tired of it. She's burned out. She's like, okay, I need to go to a small town and figure out how to slow down. So she winds up in Vermont and ends up baking for the Sugar Maple Inn. So cute, right? So cute, very Stars Hollow vibes. And I absolutely loved that Olivia, they call her Livy in the book, she has a dog that she brings with her when she moves to this small town. The dog's name is Salty, and I loved Salty so much. He was a character in the book. Like, he wasn't just like a dog. Like, he felt like a character in the book, and I was like, oh, it reminds me of Paulinka a little bit in Gilmore Girls. And so this one, just the small town vibes, totally on par with Stars Hollow. So anyway, when she is living in this small town with Salty, baking at this inn, she meets a man named Martin who lives in this small town. But this is another one, this was in like the 3-star range for me. It wasn't like my favorite read of all time, but it was a cute, fun, enjoyable read. It gave me all the wholesome, cozy feelings that Gilmore Girls gives me, so I knew that I had to include it. Next up is a more recent read of mine, and it is Ready or Not by Cara Bastone. This one, the story doesn't really remind me too much of Gilmore Girls, but it gave me the same feelings. So this is about our main character, Eve, and she unexpectedly gets pregnant after a one-night stand. It's on the back. I'm not spoiling anything. And so she is kind of figuring that out. She's in her 30s, I believe, and she's like, okay, I am about to become a mom. I am single. Like, I gotta figure this out. And so that part does kind of remind me of Lorelai, although she had Rory when she was much younger, but single mom vibes, right? So Eve's best friend, Willa, her brother, so her best friend's brother, his name is Shep, and he really wants to help Eve through this time, and Willa, she feels some type of way about Eve and Shep kind of getting a little bit closer. And then I will say Eve, her personality, her spirit kind of does remind me of Lorelai. She's just very quick, very quippy. So if you like Lorelai, I think that you will really vibe with the main character of this one, Eve. This was a 5-star read for me. I think it's because I'm a mom myself, and just reading about Eve going through pregnancy, I was just very in my feels. Okay, next up I have another series. So these 2 books are a part of the Love Light Farms series. Love Light Farms is the first book in the series, but I didn't include it because it's a Christmas book, and it was cute. It was cute, but it's not Christmas time. So I was like, okay, I'm not gonna include that one right now. But this is book 2 and this is book 3. And then I actually have book 4, Business Casual, on my TBR cart. So I'll be reading it by the end of the year. Clear the Cart series, if you know, you know. So book 2 is called In the Weeds by BK Borison, and book 3 is called Mixed Signals by BK Borison. Now, I'm gonna be honest, these take place in a small town, so they definitely give Gilmore Girls vibes. This one I just read, and it was a little spicier than I prefer because the spice just felt like spice for the sake of spice. It didn't feel like it was tied to the story or like moving the plot along. So this one is my least favorite, but the male main character in this one, Beckett, reminded me so much of Luke because he's grumpy, but he has a soft spot for the female main character, Evelyn. So quick summary, Evelyn, she is an influencer and she works online and she is getting burned out. Do we see a theme here with these books? It's these women who are getting burned out and they end up in small towns. So Evelyn is in this small town for work. She ends up having a one-night stand with Beckett. Then she goes back home, and that's when she gets burned out. She's like, okay, I need to make changes. Like, I need something different. So she goes back to this small town because she really loved it. And she ends up running into Beckett again after their one-night stand the last time she was there. And you can take it from there, okay? Okay, so that's that one. And then the one that I'm really excited to talk about, but I felt like I just needed to include both of them, is Mixed Signals. So this one is so stinking cute. I read this earlier this year, and it just made me feel so giddy when I was reading it. So Layla is a baker, and Caleb is a teacher. They both live in this small town, and Layla is so tired of just going on crappy dates, essentially. Like, she's looking for the man that gives her butterflies, that just she has so much chemistry with, that she's excited to spend the rest of her life with, and she's just having a really hard time finding that. So Caleb's like, hey, how about we do 1 month of no strings attached dating so that we can help each other out, so that you can tell me where I can improve as somebody to date, and I can tell you how to improve as somebody to date, so that we can go on and find people that we're stoked to spend the rest of our lives with. You guys, this one is just so cute. So it's fake dating, and it's a teacher and a baker in a small town. Like, how cozy, how cute. The dates that they go on are so cute and so funny, and I was just laughing out loud about this one. Caleb definitely gives Max Medina vibes from Gilmore Girls. So this one, so cute, so fun. I really had a good time reading this, and if you like Gilmore Girls, I think you'll like it too. Okay, and then the last one that I'm gonna recommend that I've actually read is a novel love story by Ashley Poston. Now, this is a new release. I gave it 4 stars. I had a good time. So this one is about our main character, Elsie, and she is having a hard go with life right now. So she goes on a yearly trip with her book club to a cabin, but for whatever reason, this year, nobody can go but her, and she's like, I don't care. I'm still going even though nobody else from book club is going. So on her way to the cabin, she ends up, her car breaks down, and she finds herself in Alorton, I think is what it's called. Yeah, which Alorton is actually a fictional town. It's the town that her favorite romance series takes place in. She winds up meeting the owner of the bookstore in this small town, and she is like, okay, I have read all of these books 20,000 times, and I do not know who this man is. Like, he is not in the book. She's like racking her brain trying to figure out, like, where is he from? Who is this guy? How does he fit into the story? And so that's kind of what this one is about. It doesn't really remind me of Gilmore Girls, like, directly, but as I was reading this, I could not help but imagine what it would be like if I accidentally stumbled into Stars Hollow for a couple days, and that feeling alone bumped this book up from like a 3.5 to a 4 star, because I was just so happy thinking about, like, oh my gosh, what if I stumbled into Stars Hollow and I'm like getting coffee at Luke's, I'm shopping at Daisies Market, you know what I mean? Like, it just gave me, like, I just couldn't stop thinking about that. If you're a fellow Gilmore Girls lover, if you read this, you will 100% be imagining yourself in Stars Hollow, and that's just the cutest thing. So I had to include it in this video. So those are all the books that I've read that I would recommend if you like Gilmore Girls. So the next category, books that I haven't read that people have said remind them of Gilmore Girls. I only have 3, so this won't take super long. So this one is The Dead Romantics by Ashley Poston, same author as a novel love story. So I actually bought this when I was on an anniversary trip with my husband in Savannah, Georgia. So I bought this book because there was a handwritten blurb next to it that included Gilmore Girls, and I was like, okay, sold. Like, I'm buying it immediately, no questions asked. So I have a picture of it on my phone, and I'm gonna read it to you. It says, if your favorite Taylor Swift song is Holy Ground, Gilmore Girls meets Ghost Whisperer meets Heart of Dixie in this big-hearted romance. The chemistry between Benji and Florence crackles off the page. Plus, I loved all the pop culture references. So I have no idea what this is about, but if somebody tells me that it is like Gilmore Girls and Heart of Dixie, that's another one of my comfort shows, I am for sure buying it. And I know that I love Ashley Poston's writing, so I am very excited to read this one. I guess I will be reading this year because it is on my TBR card, and I'll report back whenever I do read it and let you know if it gives me Gilmore Girls vibes or not. If you've read it, comment below and let me know. Is this accurate? Like, does this give Gilmore Girls vibes or not, or was this bookstore lying to me? Okay, next up is Well Met by Jen DeLuca. I actually bought this one at Barnes & Noble like, I don't know, a month ago, because I looked it up on Goodreads and people were saying it reminded them of Gilmore Girls. And so it's another one I have absolutely no idea what it's about. Never heard of this author, never read anything by them, but it says a laugh out loud romantic comedy debut where a little flirtation between sworn enemies proves that all is fair in love and war, but fair is spelled F-A-I-R-E. It says Emily knew there would be strings attached when she relocated to the small town of Willow Creek, Maryland. Oh yeah, it's already giving Stars Hollow. To help her sister, but who could have anticipated getting roped into volunteering for the local Renaissance Fair? It's like Luke's sister, the Renaissance Fair. Okay. Or that the irritating and inscrutable school teacher in charge of the volunteers would be so annoying that she finds it impossible to stop thinking about him. Okay, so I won't read the whole thing, but okay, I can kind of see how this is giving Gilmore Girls. Again, if you read this one, let me know in the comments. Is it true? Does it give Gilmore Girls? Yes or no? When I read it in 2025, I will let you guys know. I'll report back. And then the third book that I haven't read yet that keeps popping up when I'm looking for books that give me the same feeling that Gilmore Girls does is The Pumpkin Spice Cafe by Lori Gilmore. I have zero idea what this is about, but the fact that the author's last name is Gilmore, I'm like, hello. And it's just screaming fall. And I feel like Gilmore Girls is like the ultimate fall show. So they just kind of go together. And I do have a friend who has read this book and she said that it reminded her so much of Gilmore Girls. So I don't have this book. Let me know if it's one that I need to purchase and read as a fan of Gilmore Girls, if you've read it. Okay, and then the last couple books that I want to share with you guys are books that were either created in direct correlation with the show or they were written by cast members of the show. So I'm gonna start with this one because this one doesn't really fit into those categories, but I'll explain. So One Italian Summer by Rebecca, I do not know how to say her last name, Searle, I don't know. The reason why I'm including this one is because I listened to the audiobook this summer, and you know who reads it? Lauren Graham. And it was such a good time. Of course, all I could think about was Lorelai Gilmore when I was listening to this book. It's about a mother-daughter relationship. The main character, what's her name? Katie? Yeah, her mom passes away and she was supposed to be going to Italy with her mom. Like they planned the trip before her mom passed away, but her mom ends up passing away before the trip, so Katie still decides to go to Italy. But listening to Lauren Graham narrate this was the best time. Speaking of Lauren Graham, she has written 3 books that I know about, 2 that are kind of memoirs, and then 1 novel. She may have more, but these are just the ones that I know about. So I haven't read this, I actually just bought it, and it is called Someday, Maybe by Lauren Graham. So I have not read this one, but I had to include it because hello, it's our Lorelai Gilmore. She is the author. How cool is that? So again, I have no idea what this is about. Oh, and it's her first novel. So I'm just so excited to read this. I'll be reading this one in 2025 and I'll let you guys know how it is once I get to it. But I couldn't make a video about Gilmore Girls and not include a book that Lauren Graham wrote. Like, hello. And then I've read one of her 2 memoirs. I'll put them both up on the screen right now. I have read Talking as Fast as You Can. I think that's what it's called. I read it right when it came out and I had such a good time. I listened to that one too because she narrates it. And the other one is definitely on my TBR. In Talking as Fast as You Can, she does talk about her time on the set of Gilmore Girls. So if you are a Gilmore Girls fan, you definitely want to add this one to your TBR. And speaking of memoirs, I gotta grab my phone for this one. So this one is not out quite yet when I am filming this. It comes out September 23rd. Our beloved Emily Gilmore, aka Kelly Bishop, she has a memoir coming out called The Third Gilmore Girl. I have it pre-ordered. I am so excited. I'm probably gonna try to get it on audiobook because I want to hear her narrate it. And I am just so excited. I'm assuming she talks about her time on the show because it's called The Third Gilmore Girl. And I cannot wait to get my hands on it. So that one. And then these ones are also honorable mentions. You guys, if you're following my Clear the Cart TBR series, you've probably already seen me talk about them because I am working my way through them since they are on my TBR cart. So there are 4 of them and they are media tie-ins is what they're called. So they're it basically feels like you're reading a script of episodes. So they each take a couple of episodes and put them into book form. I'm gonna be honest with y'all. They're not that good. I wouldn't recommend them, but I wanted you to know that they existed. I'm excited just to have all 4 of them on my bookshelf, and that's about it, to be honest, just because I'm a mega fan, but you don't really need to read these, especially if you've watched the show, because the banter from the show does not translate well into these. They're very just kind of like flat, but they're fun to have on my bookshelf. So we have Gilmore Girls, I Love You, You Idiot, Gilmore Girls, Like Mother, Like Daughter, Gilmore Girls, The Other Side of Summer, and Gilmore Girls, I Do, Don't I? I got mine off of thriftbooks.com. I don't want to tell you how much I paid for them. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. My cousin is the one who introduced these to me. She found one at Goodwill for like $1. And I saw her, she was visiting Florida and she had it with her and I was like, what is that? I didn't know these existed. And she was raving about how much fun it was to read. And I trusted her. And so I went on a hunt and bought all 4 of them. They're not that good. But like I said, I'm excited to have them on my shelf. And then the last book that I'm gonna talk about, this one is so cute and so fun. It is a Gilmore Girls picture book. So I have a daughter, she's almost 2. And of course, when I heard about this, I bought it immediately and I keep it on a shelf in her bedroom. We've read it a couple times. Does she appreciate Gilmore Girls? Not yet. But when we start letting her watch TV, you better believe that her and I are gonna be watching Gilmore Girls together. But this one is Gilmore Girls at Home in Stars Hollow. It is so cute. Let me show you some of the pages. Like, you're joking. You're joking! So this one is just super fun and I felt like I had to include it. So those are all the books that I recommend you read if you are seeking out the same feeling that Gilmore Girls gives you. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you got a new book recommendation or two. Let me know if you guys end up reading any of these. Also, I am so proud of myself that I kept this cardigan on the entire time. I'm sweating my butt off, but I kept it on in the name of fall, in the name of Gilmore Girls. But I love you guys so much. Thanks for watching, and I hope you have the best day ever.